Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us in this hard-hit neighborhood on Staten Island. It really is hard to see what people have gone through in the last few days. People just going about their ordinary lives. People never suspecting that an area like this neighborhood in particular, would be ravaged by a storm and a raging flood that destroyed these buildings, these homes, all the way down to the core. And when you walk through and you see attempts to collect family photos, have them dry out so you still have that keepsake of your wedding and friends and children, and literally nothing left on the walls, the furniture gone. This is just one example of what a storm can do. And it's hard to see. It's hard to see. People's lives have been so deeply affected by this. And I want to thank my partners in government in particular, because they have felt this just as deeply as I have. People who have stepped up to answer the call to public service. You think it involves a lot of constituent service and passing bills and getting things done, but then these are your neighbors, and you feel it deeply, and I want to thank all of you for coming out. I want to acknowledge Senator Diane Savino, who brought us here today, letting my team know the devastation on this particular block, and there's people who need help desperately. So thank you, Senator, for what you've done in this event, but also for your incredible work that you've done in our state capitol. Just a strong advocate for Staten Island. We're joined by our Congresswoman, Nicole Miliatakis, who really, truly has been affected by this as well and is working hard with us and our partners in Washington to deliver the much-needed relief money from FEMA. So I want to thank her and the other members of the New York delegation for their strong support for my request to get the individual assistance, which we expect will be happening. I also want to recognize Assemblyman Michael Cousick. He'll be joining us to say a few words. Assemblymember Michael Tanusis will be speaking. Someone who's become a very dear friend of mine is our great borough president, Jimmy Otto, and I told all of them I usually see you at another sad event, but an appropriate memorial where I've come every year to postcards event on 9/11. And I'm always so deeply touched by that event. But I thank the borough president for his service to this community for many, many years and extending his friend and handshake to me over my entire tenure, 7 years as lieutenant governor and now governor. Debbie Rose, council member, will be saying a few words as well. She's been a strong, strong ally and a fighter for the people right on the ground here. And we also have someone who will be joining us in the elected ranks, I anticipate, in the fall. Community leader Kamala Hanks is joining us to say a few words. Commissioner Patrick Murphy, the Department of Homeland Security. Commissioner Murphy, extraordinary work. Your team, we are together preparing for the ravages of anticipated Hurricane Henri just a couple 10 days ago, and now to have to come back again and re-engage and just do it all over again. The long nights, the long days, and just the toll it takes on all of us as human beings when we see what happens to the people we're charged with representing and protecting. It's hard, but we have the best and the brightest serving us. I also want to thank an individual who opened up her home to us, Kim and family, sisters here, and residents of a building right behind us. Kim, what you've done is it's powerful. You've put a face to the misery, the pain, the anguish that's out there, and it emboldens all of us about what we have to do. The urgency with which we bring to the task of bringing much needed aid to you and families, and people are just in pain. So what do? I can't stop Mother Nature, try my best. I fought back storms, put down sandbags to deal with 100-year events, from Lake Erie to Lake Ontario to rivers all over the state. Tried to fight back Mother Nature when she dumped 7 feet of snow in my neighborhood, all in a day and a half, stranding people for 36 hours on a highway. So I come here to tell you I'm not inexperienced in dealing with disasters. But I also know while we can't stop Mother Nature, we don't have to always be so defensive. I say we go on offense. I'm a sports fan. Let's go on offense and do everything we humanly can to be resilient, to be prepared, and when a crisis hits, have better early warning systems for people, particularly people who've been living in basement homes and lower levels that are particularly vulnerable. How are we getting the message out to them? Yes, we have the cell phones going off. It's saying a tornado may be coming. But I understand there's a very human nature to say, there they go again. There they go again. I was literally on beaches on Long Island telling people the reports that I was giving that Hurricane Henri could be as bad as Hurricane Sandy and we need to get people evacuated. I was out there following that direction and it didn't happen. So I understand what happens when a week later we're telling people the same thing. Get ready, get ready. Something devastating could happen. And they all think we're Chicken Little because it didn't happen last time. We have to fight against that. That is our first line of defense, is to fight against that complacency, which is a very natural human reaction to people telling you it's going to be bad again because you say last time it wasn't. And I got through it, or I can fight back, I can survive a hurricane. We have to teach people that this is something that is so powerful. And as the effect of climate change, these storms are getting more wicked than ever. And we have to do everything we can to let people know. But then what you do during the event, you evacuate, you take care of people in the immediate crisis, and we did a good job with that. We had hundreds of people evacuated by our first responders, from local officials on up to the state. They did their jobs. They did an amazing job at risk to their own lives. And that's something we always forget, or many times forget. They risked their own lives. They could also be swept away. That happened to a state police officer in Connecticut. Swept away trying to just do their job. So let's not forget that they're in danger as well. But here we are, day and a half after, almost 2 days after. Now it's about cleaning up and building back and getting people the resources they need so they can resume their lives and put this bad chapter in the memory books and tell their grandchildren about it someday. But get back to some semblance of normal. Everybody just wants to be made whole, get back to normal, and start putting all their piece of their lives back together. I understand that it's very real. I'm very pleased that President Biden, after my phone call with him and our submission of our request for assistance, granted the FEMA assistance we asked for, gave us an emergency declaration. There's a longer process involved, which we're very engaged in, and something I'm extremely familiar with, having sought these declarations many, many times. But we want to make sure that we take care of people in their immediate need and make sure that anyone who needs food or clothing or shelter is responded to. And not just here on Long Island. I literally just came in from Westchester, and I asked what was happening in Mamaroneck. I said, people need food. People are asking for food. I mean, this is the state of New York, great state of New York, and people are hungry tonight. That can't be the case. So I want to call on all of our citizens to help each other out. Make sure that our local food banks have what they need, that we have the resources to give to local shelters. Make sure everybody in this time of need is taken care of. And then the next step is we do damage assessment. In order to be reimbursed by FEMA, we have to give them literally the bill. We have to tell them what the cost of this is and how we're going to work with our local governments to literally go street by street and calculate the cost of what this event has resulted in. I'm also deploying the Department of Financial Services, which oversees banking and insurance. For this purposes, insurance is the operative word. Everybody's going to want to get their insurance claims filed as soon as possible. So I've directed the insurance companies, don't wait. Get your claims adjusters out there. Fan out. Go to the neighborhoods. Help out. We have a mobile van that has been deployed to help people literally fill out the forms and make sure they're in the language of the community they're in. Critically important to me. I don't want any barriers to people getting the assistance that's available to them. Short term, take care of people, property, life, protect. Next term, assess the damage, file for claims, get the money out to people. And then there's the longer term. And I just was with Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand in the last hour. And they are committed to working with the Senate, the House of Representatives, and President Biden to get the infrastructure money passed in Congress, signed into law, and out to communities like this. We have put off for far too long the necessary investments to protect us from the effects of climate change. And it's not that complicated, my friends. We know where we need to build resiliency. Yes, we know about seawalls. We have barriers that need to be taken care of. We'll get that done. But what we didn't anticipate from our past experiences is what happened here. When it wasn't the waves crash against the shoreline, destroying houses in its wake, the danger came from above, came from the heavens. And as a result, we literally have Niagara Falls rushing down here. And I live near Niagara Falls. I know what I'm talking about. That's what we're dealing with here. So what that means to stop this from happening here and flooding homes, it's about what happens underground. Do we have the appropriate storm sewers? Do we have the drainage? And these are not the fun projects, but I've worked on hundreds of projects as a local official. I know how critical they are when a storm comes. If the storm came with that magnitude and the streets could handle the water, Kim and I wouldn't be standing out here in the street today. Mm-hmm. That's what we're going to do next. It's expensive, it's big, it's bold, but it's essential. That's how we can deal with the first line of attack. That's how we go on offense against Mother Nature. And it starts in neighborhoods like this. That is my commitment to all of you. That is my commitment, sure as I'm standing here. And I know that everyone who's going to be speaking joins me in saying to you, let's not let this happen again. Let's be ready. And when Mother Nature has a really bad night and takes it out on us, we stand ready to fight back. And we fight back hard because we're New Yorkers, we're Staten Island. Thank you very much. Senator Savino, I'd like you to say words again. Thank you for organizing this event for us and bringing us to your neighborhood. I want to make sure that everyone gets acknowledged properly here.
Thank you so much, Governor Hochul. I just want to say how grateful I am on behalf of the people I represent here, that not only were you able to immediately come to Staten Island, but the commitment that you just made and the way you laid out the challenges that we face. I truly want to thank you for recognizing it. And I want to say, I'm standing here today with some people who have represented not just this part of Staten Island, but all parts of Staten Island for the better part of 20 years now. Whether it's the borough president, Jimmy Otto, who served first in the city council and then as borough president, Councilwoman Rose, who's represented this community for 12 years now, Mike Cousick, who's represented us in the state assembly in the Mid-Island, the newest member of the delegation in Albany, Assemblyman Mike Tanusis, who was with me here last week, the Congresswoman behind me, Nicole Maliotakis, was the former Assemblywoman, now she's in Congress. Collectively, we have all represented the parts of Staten Island for more than 20 years. We know what it's like when the rainstorms are predicted. We know what it's like for those of us who represent the beachfront communities. I also represent South Brooklyn, Coney Island, and Brighton Beach. We know the fear that goes through us when they anticipate heavy rain and flooding. For those communities, we always worry about them because we know what's going to happen there. But when the calls came last week in Henri from places like White Street and St. John, where cars were floating, from places in Port Richmond, from Major Avenue and South Beach and Linwood Place, we all had to stop and get a map and look and say, wait a minute, it never floods there. I came here on that Sunday afternoon, I got out of the car, this street was flooded, that street was flooded, cars were floating. I saw that family across, they're sitting on their porch in shell shock. 50 years they've lived here, no one ever flooded in this neighborhood. And that was the recurring theme all week long as we visited families who had never flooded before. Houses devastated, sewers overrun, 5 feet of filthy water in their homes. And then it happened again. That's the challenge we face. And so I am so grateful that the governor was able to come here today and lay out what we need to do. And it will not be easy. It's first to help these families immediately, some of whom in the wake of last week's storm went to work cleaning out their houses, replacing their HVAC systems, replacing their water heaters and their home and their washers and dryers, only to lose them again a week later. To get the president to act so quickly, to ask him to add the homeowners plan. We need Washington to act quickly on the infrastructure plan. We need to get that money here to Washington. We need the federal government, the state government, and the city government to work together to help people right now and to plan for the future. Because the future is here, and this is what it looks like. And it ain't pretty, and we gotta do better. And working together, we're going to. And I'm so, again, happy that you came out here on behalf of my constituents. I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you so much, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis, if you could say us a few words, tell us how it's looking in Washington.
Thank you to the governor for coming out here so swiftly following this storm. You know, any of us who have been through Hurricane Sandy just know how tragic and devastating the damage of a natural disaster can be to our community. I still remember the day after Hurricane Sandy struck our shores, Senator Savino, Borough President, then Councilman Jimmy Otto, and I were touring the areas, and we knew that this was going to be something very, very dire, and something that we needed to be right on the street, delivering supplies, getting people the help they need, and that would be a long recovery process. And in some cases, we're still recovering. My biggest fear is when I turn on the news and I hear that a storm is coming toward our way. A tropical storm, a hurricane, heavy rain. Because we know that on Staten Island there are certain areas that are constantly impacted by flooding, poor drainage, and other issues. So my biggest concern, and I brought this up with the governor when I spoke with her when she first took the position a week ago, is ensuring that we are better protected for the future. And for the east shore of Staten Island, we know that that means completing the seawall along the east shore, which has been something very personal to me and those who represent that area in particular. And that she's given me her commitment that she'll work with us and ensure that we move this project along, we resolve the issues that we're having between the city and the federal government in terms of remediation to ensure that this project stays on schedule. It is absolutely critical, and it does require every single level of government's cooperation, because the city, the state, and the federal level all have invested taxpayer money in this project, and each level has a responsibility to work together to move forward. And so I appreciate that. Thank you to the governor for that commitment to me. In addition to that, we know that the reality is that government sometimes does other things than the basics that we're supposed to be focused on, right? What do people expect from their government when they pay their taxes? Well, in my opinion, public safety, transportation, quality education, and yes, infrastructure. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the type of investment and the type of projects that are necessary to keep up with population growth in our community and across this city. And there is so much aging infrastructure, despite the fact that we pay more to the city in tax dollars per population than any other city, I would argue, in the country, and certainly any other state in the country. And so it is time for all of us, the city, the state, and yes, the federal government. And I do hope that the Speaker brings a bill forward so we can actually debate it and have a real conversation about what are the infrastructure needs of today. So we can work all together to try to once and for all focus where the taxpayers want their money to go to support their infrastructure and get back to the basics of where government's responsibility needs to be. So I look forward to working with my colleagues on the city, the state, and the federal level to do that. And just lastly, with FEMA, I want to thank the governor again for swiftly requesting that declaration from the president. She did also request the individual and households program, which is the key for all of those homeowners who are looking for direct relief to help with some of those unmet needs that insurance is not covering. She put in that request, and we thank her for that. The president so far has not approved that, and he has indicated that he will. And we thank that FEMA and the state Office of Emergency Management are working together to expedite that process of evaluating the damage and doing the assessments. And I want to thank my colleagues on the local level, every single member. You should know this because it's so important at a time of such polarization in our country. Every single elected official in Staten Island, Republican and Democrat, all three levels of government, signed on to the letter that I drafted today that went right to the president asking him to please help us swiftly execute these assessments and to grant the governor's request for that individual and household program. So I want to thank them for that, and I want to thank all of you for coming out and showing support for the elected officials who are out there doing the best we can at this moment in time. And let's just all work together to get this done, get the seawall done, and look for ways to improve our community and make sure that we're better protected in the future. Thank you.
Assemblymember Michael Cousick, say a few words, and I want to thank you for the incredible work that you've done. You'll be next. Sorry, one second. I got to look down here. Michael Cousick, great friend of ours. I've seen him so many times in our state capitol, just out there constantly fighting for the whole region of Staten Island, but also just he does a great job as a statewide leader as well. He's an extraordinary individual. I want to thank him for all he does, and then we'll get to the order of our assemblyman here as well. Michael. Oh, there he is.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for coming out to Staten Island. I think it's indicative that your first trip to Staten Island as governor is to help the people of Staten Island on the ground, boots on the ground, and that's the Kathy Hochul we all know and have worked with over the years as lieutenant governor. But it's your background as a local official that you know the work is yet to be done. The hard work is now. All of us have been out there in our districts. We're here in the East Shore, but in my district in the Mid-Island, we got the most rainfall of any area in the city of New York. In the city of New York, the Mid-Island of Staten Island. Back when we were all together like this years ago, it was Sandy, right? And we knew it was going to be the East Shore. We knew it was going to be the shorelines. Now we have to be concerned about the middle of the island because of the heavy rains that now are coming. And so this is something that I know that Governor Hochul and my colleagues are prepared, and we're going to do the hard work to make sure that we can mitigate this if this happens again. But right now is the hard work in recovering and helping our friends, our family, and they are our friends and family. It's not just words. These are folks we know. Some of our own houses, some of our neighbors, some of our family are going through this. Some of us are waiting for calls on sump pumps. Right?
Yes, sir.
Right, Mr. Borough President? So this is hitting everywhere, and this is why it's important that the public knows that government is on their side in this and that we are going to do the work that is necessary. Now, what is that work? We got to make sure that people know to document everything, right? To file with insurance company. Because of the help of Governor Hochul, FEMA will be assessing things, right? And it's important that all of our neighbors and the people of Staten Island understand that they have to document things so they can be made whole again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good that we're all here together and working, but again, I wish everybody well as we move forward because these are the hard times, and this is where we really have to put our nose to the grindstone, and we really need to work and get people back to normal. Thank you so much, Governor.
We'll also hear from Assemblymember Michael Tanusis, and I do want to acknowledge I did talk to Assemblymember Hall before I came here, and he had a little health setback, and we wished him well, but he would have been here, and he's actually monitoring the situation and being very engaged from his remote office. So, Assemblymember, thank you.
Thank you so much.
My mask there, sorry.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank the governor for taking time out of her busy schedule to be here today. Obviously, a week and a half ago, myself and Senator Savino went door knocking in this area and on St. John's, and also in South Beach. And we saw some devastation that we never thought we would see in those areas. We're talking about damage, 50, 60, upwards of $100,000 worth of damage. Some of the people affected are here today. And we made a promise to them that we were going to do everything we could to fight for them, to get some kind of relief for them. So fast forward to Sunday, and obviously situation got even worse with even more people affected. So I'm happy. I am truly blessed. I've been an assembly member for a total of 7 months, and I have to say I am blessed to have colleagues on both sides of the aisle that are willing to guide me and help me get through situations like this. So thank you to the senator, thank you to the congresswoman, thank you to the borough president, and thank you to my colleague, Assemblyman Mike Cousick. So with that being said, I just want to tell my constituents and all Staten Islanders that we will fight. We will continue to fight to make sure that you have the relief that you need to get through situations like this. And we promise you that we will be working on the infrastructure to make sure that situations like this do not happen as often as they really do. So thank you very much, Governor, again for coming here.
Now we'll hear from Borough President Jimmy Otto, and thank him for everything he's done. He's just extraordinary public servant. Truly is.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor. Governor, I want to start out with an apology. At the beginning of the press conference, that was my phone that rang. Unlike yesterday with Councilmember Miller, it wasn't my mom. It was Senator Lanza. And I would not hand that phone over to you. I would not do that to you. You'll be hearing enough from Senator Lanza, I'm sure, soon.
That was nice.
I work alone, remember that. And as Mike alluded to, if there's another call and it's power flow sewer services, I'm going to have to take that.
And run.
Because if I put off addressing my own little situation at home, I'm going to need a good divorce attorney on top of a good plumber. So I want to thank all my colleagues, and I won't repeat what they said because I think they hit it right on the head. I do want to take a moment to give you my take on things. It's hard walking into that basement. It brings back every moment that we've done that before. Hurricane Irene in Willowbrook, Sandy, all the other times that there have been Staten Islanders in crisis. And as an elected official, you want to help, and you find yourself sometimes in positions in that immediate moment you can't. And that's hard. But I want to thank the governor, and I want to reiterate why it's so important that she is here today and sending a message to Staten Island so early in her term. Unfortunately, Staten Island is in a unique, disadvantageous position. Yes, our city, our state, parts of this country are facing unique, new, serious challenges. But on Staten Island, we have another local layer. In the last decade, a couple of years under Bloomberg, the rest under Mayor de Blasio, the city made an investment of $500 million, $500 million, in sewers on streets. For the first time, a street was getting a sanitary sewer. Over a decade, $500 million. That's a wonderful thing. But peel back the onion a bit. 50 years, 60 years after the Verrazano Bridge went up, when it became the wild, wild west of development in this borough and created the logistical and infrastructure hot mess we see today. 50 and 60 years later, there was $500 million spent. We are playing catch up in this borough in terms of infrastructure for decades ago. Now, you add on what we all, call it whatever you want, let's not argue it. Frequency and severity of the storms have changed. You add that on an antiquated infrastructure system. And look over there, good folks. At the same time, add on the fact that city planning, New York City Department of City Planning, has systematically refused every plea to address infill, tear downs, more development, and then had the temerity to do worse to us yesterday or 2 days ago than Mother Nature did, and said, come on, high density R7 zoning into Staten Island, making the infrastructure challenge that much worse. So, folks, in terms of being an elected official, I exit stage right or stage left, depending on your perspective of my politics these days. I exit it in 118 days. Some of the good folks behind me, including this governor, will still have that challenge. And the challenge is real. And if we don't address it on every level, in every single way, including saying, oh, time out. Not all housing is good housing. Not all, bring the people in, that's how you get the services. It's the original sin of Staten Island. We don't want it anymore. If we don't address that fight while we're doing all the other aspects, then we're going to be spinning our wheels and these folks are going to be back in front of different communities, or maybe back in front of this one. For 118 days I have left, we will do everything we can. I want you to know I get a daily briefing, whether I want it or not, from Senator Savino, 8 a.m. every morning. She calls, and you folks all have been on her mind, and she's told me about the trips here with Mike Tanusis. I pledge to you that we will do everything that we can in our remaining term. And I swear this is the last thing I want to say. You know, the rest of the city gets tired of hearing how aggrieved we are in Staten Island. And, oh, you're always complaining. There's a great political philosopher. He was the head coach of the New York Giants. His name was Bill Parcells. And he said one time, you are what your record says you are. And we know our record vis-a-vis city government. And we have a chip on our shoulder. And we're a unique lot. But we are always the most appreciative New Yorkers when government reaches out. Governor, your call yesterday, your appearance here today, your heart, your soul, your emotion, it's real, I know it. Thank you for sending a message to Staten Islanders that you are a friend of this borough.
I could call you at 8 o'clock, too.
No, I'll be talking to my mom. Thank you, Borough President. We talked about this when we first met, about how I too have a chip on my shoulder coming from Buffalo, where everybody says, okay, you lose Super Bowls, you'll need chicken wings, you get a lot of snow. So I said there'll never be any place known as a forgotten borough, because I love all of you and I'll give you plenty of attention, and you deserve it. So Councilmember Debbie Rose, a great friend of mine as well, please join us at the podium.
Thank you so much, Governor Hochul, and it really is a pleasure to be able to say Governor Hochul. The last time we were together, about a month ago, it was Lieutenant Governor. It's really been wonderful, and usually we say politicians are, they get into office and it's immersion by fire. You've been immersed by water, and you have handily handled this situation. I want to thank you for your immediate response to our devastating weather event. Immediate is the word here. Because as Staten Islanders, as the borough president spoke, oftentimes we feel we are the forgotten borough. And it takes a while before there's acknowledgement that we have been negatively impacted. And I can say with the utmost gratitude that Governor Hochul immediately responded to our needs and to the devastation that all of us have suffered. So I want to sincerely thank you for that. And I want to thank you for immediately speaking to the president about the severity of the problems that New York City has encountered, and gotten them to make the declaration. And I know you're going to be successful in getting them to give us individual home owners assistance. This was an event that none of us could have predicted. We heard the warnings. We knew that we were going to have a lot of rain and possibly wind, but never in our slightest imaginations did we think that it would have the type of impact that it's had. Inches of record-breaking inches of rain in Willowbrook. 9 inches of rain fell. Cars stranded on the expressway, basements flooded, and even loss of life. We had to have members of our communities rescued from the roofs of their cars on our expressway. And the unfortunate part is that we have become accustomed to flood surge events. We know how to prepare for that. But this was a record-setting water accumulations that we previously had not experienced, and we definitely have not been prepared for. We have learned how to protect our coastal communities, but we have not been prepared to protect our interior communities. And it gives me a lot of sorrow to say that Not one community on Staten Island went untouched. Not one. Usually the senator was very articulate about the communities in the past that have suffered from water events. But this is unheard of. Every community, and I'm not talking about a little bit of water, devastating amounts of water. So, we have to focus on delivering immediate assistance to everyone, all of our homeowners and our small businesses. And I want to thank you again for securing the help that we need to ensure that all of our residents get the help that they need. And I just want to leave you with this. We must focus on mitigating the potential damage from future storms. And we have a commitment from the governor that is, in fact, on her radar and will be something that will be addressed within the forthcoming months. So I want to thank you all again, sincerely, Governor, for bringing attention to Staten Island and what our needs are.
Thank you.
And all of my colleagues in government, they have been wonderful.
Thank you, council member, and thank you all for your words of support for our efforts. And as I said before, we don't just do press conferences. We put a spotlight on the challenges, but it's all about what you do the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and a sustained approach and the follow through. And that's what I've done my entire life. So this is not the only time we're going to be seeing our neighbors on this street and offering this kind of help.